To keep it moving here, Peter says, I have a question for you. Why are Reels so much more popular than Shorts? Reels have 200 billion daily views, while YouTube has only around 70 billion daily views. Is Reels a better product? Is the Reels algorithm better, or do they measure view differently? Do you have any theories, Ben?
Well, I mean, Reels is a part of a social network. YouTube is a content network. It's something that's very different. So Reels has a tie-in where you have the user aspect of not only just users sort of generating video, but also users sharing videos with each other, which adds an important sort of effect to sort of drive this sort of thing. That's number one. Number two, Facebook went all in. Like Reels is deeply integrated into the Instagram experience. I wrote about this a couple of years ago, where the evolution of Instagram sort of over time. And you start out with the feed that is, it used to be chronological of just sort of images. Then they added in video. Then they went to the interest-based feed as opposed to the chronological feed, which is always, that is one of the all-time examples of stated preference versus revealed preference. Everyone says they want chronological. All usage numbers for every app ever shows that's not true.
I was a big complainer about Twitter introducing the For You feed, and now I use exclusively the For You feed. I can't imagine a chronological timeline in my life.
I mean, it's funny because Twitter is the one that is arguably the most suited to a chronological feed, just because there is a real temporal element to Twitter. And so I'm glad that sort of that tab is still there. It is really annoying how it always goes back to the For You feed whenever you like leave the view or whatever. But yeah, I mean, so that's particularly for Instagram, which is not about what's breaking, what's new. I mean, Instagram knows you better than you know yourself and what you're interested in. Like, so if you're complaining about what's in your feed, there's some self-examination sort of in order. I'll tell you that much.
Pal.
Yeah, exactly. And so, actually, Twitter very briefly, years and years ago, released a feature where you could see Twitter as someone else saw it. And I think they shut that crap down in like 24 hours. It's like, okay, wait, no, this is too much information running servers on other people. But anyhow, so it starts out, so it has the feed. Then they add stories, and stories they put right up there at the top. And what's funny is another example of revealed preference is stories became the dominant use case for Instagram, even though it was only occupying like 25% of that home screen, right? And people complained about that. They complained about it endlessly, and it turns out they loved it, right? And it was a huge sort of growth driver for Instagram. Well, Reels comes along. What are you going to do with it? And you look at the hierarchy of their home screen. The most important part is that 25% of the top where stories are. People will go through their stories, and then if they're still bored, they'll go through their feed. And so Instagram, again, sort of like the people complain about it, and it's understandable, but also kind of, to use the Apple term when they took out the headphone jack, kind of brave. They're like, that's now Reels territory. It's mostly going to be Reels. We'll still have the photos and videos there that you wanted before. It's a sop to our heritage, but this is now sort of Reels territory. And that's an aggressiveness and putting it in front of people that YouTube will put it in front of you to an extent, but YouTube's more of a destination site. You go there to look something, and then the algorithm will pull you into more videos. You'll look up like 2 hours later and you're watching a bunch of cool YouTube videos, but it's not I'm on the bus or I'm sitting on the can, I'm just going to waste a few moments, and then you're sucked into Reels, right? And Instagram is inviting you to get sucked into Reels in a much more aggressive way than YouTube is. And like, this stuff matters. Like, Facebook is built on aggressive growth strategies. No company has done it better. Leave aside the morality of it for sort of better or worse. They are good at this. They're aggressive. And it's a testament, I think, to having the founder in charge, that they've basically completely transformed what the app was. And again, there's lots of people, I bet a lot of our listeners are screaming at their AirPods right now saying, I want the old Instagram. That was so much better, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, the numbers show that the masses disagree with you. And Instagram is an app for the masses. And the vote is clear.
Yeah, well, and I also would push back at the listeners who are screaming at their AirPods. Number one, get a pair of wired headphones. Number two, though,
oh my God.
Instagram is not meaningfully worse. Anybody who's saying that it's that much worse in the Reels era is lying, in my opinion anyways. But the Shorts question I have so do you have to affirmatively seek out shorts on YouTube? Because
No,
that
they put
would
it on. They put it on there pretty aggressively. Like if you go to the homepage, there'll be something up front, but then there'll be shorts right there. And then if you search for something, I actually find it pretty irritating because usually when I'm searching, I don't want shorts. I'm looking for
right.
something sort of specifically. So they've been fairly aggressive, but I think people just use YouTube differently than they use Instagram. I don't know this at a deep level. There is a certain bit of I'm theorizing here, but I think for YouTube, like search is way more important to YouTube than it is to say Instagram, right? Instagram is
Yeah.
just open and browse. YouTube is much more of
Instagram
a
is a
directed.
discovery tool. And
That
it's interesting
that's why the
because
advertising is so compelling.
exactly. It's the same sort of organic appeal of the advertising is the reels. I've watched many, many, many more reels in my life than YouTube shorts because it integrates so seamlessly. The last good social media platform on the internet is Instagram. So, but that's a good question because I had seen some of the view numbers on Instagram reels, and some of the numbers are pretty astounding. So I appreciate the explanation there in terms of the discrepancy between reels and shorts. Any final thoughts, or should we keep it moving down
Well,
the rundown here?
yeah, well, this is why all the people freaking out about Facebook and its usage numbers, sort of, a couple years ago, were just totally off base. Like when Facebook says they're turning on this sort of thing, it's going to have an effect, and the aggressiveness they had already shown by then, where they were basically going to change Instagram, they deserved a little more sort of credit for how well it was going to go.
Yep. Well, it's working out so far.